If you're an entrepreneur, that's what you want to do. And usually if you see great entrepreneurs have their hands in everything. Some of the stuff they have is failing miserably. Some of the stuff they have is ultra successful. I have a section of my book that talks about the best teams are the people that don't like each other.
Yes.
Those are the best teams. I hate your guts, but you know what? I'm going to work with you. But if you really want to do it, you have that passion, you're going to eat, sleep, drink, you're going to do all of that stuff, and you're going to make sure that that business is going to be successful. Keep in mind, 48 years old, people are thinking about retirement or getting ready for that time. And I am sitting there going back to square one at 40.
So I'm super excited to talk to Trunnis Goggins, who I just learned is actually David Goggins' brother. He lives in Asheville, North Carolina. So, how was your childhood growing up with such a badass dude?
I'll tell you, our childhood was actually separate. We grew up in different households. I grew up with my dad primarily. He grew up with my mom. We separated. I was 12, he was 8, and there was a separation. I lived with him for a short time. We spent time terrorizing each other as brothers do. But yeah, and then we went for a long period of time where we just didn't interact that much. It was just because of our upbringing. I'm 4 years older than him. And so we didn't really grow up in the same, whatever. And so, yeah, but that's basically how our upbringing went.
Nice. I'm also 4 years older than my younger brother, and 100% true about the terrorizing. Do you also have a military background as well?
I do. I was in the Navy as well.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I spent 20 years in the Air Force. I retired a few years ago. Did cybersecurity, and now I started this and started talking to all sorts of amazing folks all around the world. And lo and behold, talked to you, and we learned about the 4 Ps. And can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
The 4 Ps are purpose, planning, passion, and persistence. And those are things, if you're in business, you can use these in any walk of life. Okay. Number one, you have to have a purpose. Military used to be, you have to have a mission. What's your mission? What are we going to do? And you being in the Air Force, me being in the Navy, we knew what we had to do. We always knew. And once you knew that, and as a matter of fact, we both got up. You had the Airman's Creed, we had the Sailor's Creed, and that's basically what your purpose is. It's your creed. I know back in the day, in order for us to reestablish morale and things like that, back in the Navy, we had a commander who we would start out our day, even if we're doing it over the phone, we're going to start out with the Sailor's Creed. Why? Because it's our purpose. And so you always have to establish your purpose. Right. And so you get up in the morning, and people always say, find your why. It's not why. It's because, why are you doing this? Well, because you are wanting to be this. Like, for example, your role, your why is always going to change. Your because may not change. Okay. For example, me, I love my kids. So now at 6 months old, 7 months old, why are you changing a diaper? Okay. I shouldn't be changing the diaper of a 7-year-old. My why has changed. Because I want to be a good dad now, I'm doing something totally different. Your why is always changing. So that's where you get plan. My because is my purpose, all right? Because I want to be a good cybersecurity. I want to be a good business person. I want to be this. Now, your why does change because your plan should change. Your plan's going to change with the environment. Your plan's going to change all the time. In my book, The 4 Ps of You, I talk about Blockbuster Video. Blockbuster had a hell of a plan.
Yes.
Okay. They really did. There's no other, you could never tell me of another video store that ever was as successful as Blockbuster Video.
No.
But you also can't tell me another company that was so big. It was a behemoth company that failed so miserably, so fast. And why is because the number one reason why is because they stuck to their plan. You know what I mean? Sometimes you don't want to stick to the plan. The other thing is passion. And passion, it has to be yours. It has to be what you want to do. You were in the military, I was in the military, and I know we saw a lot of people wash out of the military because they were in the military for reasons that were not their own, okay? And so there was no passion. They didn't care. The worst thing you could do is see somebody in your unit that didn't care because you knew that you were either going to pick up the slack or something was going to happen. You're smiling.
Or something worse, right? I was going to say pick up the slack is one thing, but then you could put other people's lives in danger as well.
Absolutely. And then so you want to have passion because the next thing is persistence. Life is not, as Rocky Balboa so rightly said it, life is not all sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah.
And you're going to get hit and you need to be persistent. And those are what the 4 Ps are.
That's awesome. I like that a lot. So how does, first of all, like when you said, businesses fail, I immediately thought of WeWork. You remember those folks recently
Yeah.
where you had offices all over the world, I think. And you could basically just go to this office, rent a space, use it for your meetings, Zoom calls, whatever the case is. Companies from having to invest so much. And then for traveling teams, they would have a place to work with a really nice concept. And it was going berserk, like billions of dollars in valuation. And then COVID happens, and then nobody wants to go into work. And then all these offices just crumble. And I think they sold it for like pennies on the dollar recently. But that was kind of one of those cases where it's out of their control a little bit, right? Like natural disaster. I think legally there's also a clause for that. Some catastrophe that happens, so right, out of control. But yeah, they crash. And then Blockbuster, for sure, they just never changed or they didn't evolve with the technology. And I see a lot of that within my sphere, where I'll talk to a business, I'll look at their online presence, and it's almost non-existent. Like I have folks that are still sending out physical quotes, like they're handwriting them in and then handing it to somebody. And then they'll call back like a week later going, hey, did you guys ever submit that quote to us? We're looking to sign you guys up. And we're like, well, we don't know. We gave it to you. Let me go through our records. It's interesting because on one side of the spectrum, you have folks that are so advanced, quote unquote, because they're using artificial intelligence. They're integrating it into their processes. They have AI just answering the call 24/7. So you never get an answering machine at all, voicemail at all. And then on the other spectrum, it's, the folks that have been doing things for 35, 40 years, kind of stuck in their ways, the Blockbuster way,
right,
that are doomed to just fail. And you kind of see this writing on the wall. So how do you go and like shake these owners a little bit and like, get them to see the why?
I wish I can get up and go, I'm a huge hockey person, right? I do play, but I'm not a great player. So I have to say person. CCM, you've heard of CCM, right?
CCM.
All right, there's two major players in the hockey skate realm. And one is Bauer and one is CCM. Those are the two powerhouses. There are other companies, but those two are the two powerhouses. Do you know what CCM stands for? Remember, hockey powerhouse. What does CCM stand for? You're never going to guess it. Because remember I said hockey powerhouses.
That's what I was hoping for. Some kind of like skate. I was hoping for like a puck. I was hoping for
negative. You ready? It stands for Canadian Cycle and Marine.
Oh my gosh.
Nothing to do with hockey. So what happened with CCM? CCM was a company back at the turn of the 20th century. So the turn of the 20th century, there's this company called CCM, Canadian Cycle and Marine. Obviously, they built bicycles and they built marine boats and stuff. Up in Canada, that's why they call it Canadian Cycle and Marine. So you have to think about it. Canadian Cycle and Marine, it is not warm all the time in Canada. So your peak season is like 2 days in Canada. That's all you got. You don't have a lot for cycling and for boating. So what Canadian Cycle and Marine did is like, we got this wood, we've got this metal. What are we going to do? So they're like, you know what? They got all these kids out here playing hockey. Let's take the material that we have and let's build some hockey sticks and let's build some ice skates. What ended up happening was this company, CCM, which now is into real estate and all this other stuff now. CCM is like, their specialty is hockey equipment, but they are so diversified now, it's not even funny. Forget the boats, forget the bikes.
Right.
We're making money on this hockey stuff and let's stay there. Wow. So what I'm trying to say is like, we got companies that failed because they were unable to adapt to their environment. So when you go into planning, what you have to do is you could sit there, you can think about everything negative. What you have to do at that point is instead of panicking, you have to sit there and say, what materials do I have? It could be intellectual, it could be, tangible material, it could be anything. What do I have right now where I can make some money and still serve my purpose, which is in the case of organizations, it's making sure your stockholders are taken care of.
Right.
Okay?
That's the because.
Exactly. And that's the because. That's always going to be the because when you're talking about big, that's always going to be the because. And when you're talking even about small business, the because is I want to eat. Okay. I don't want to answer to someone else and I want to eat. If you're an entrepreneur, that's what you want to do. And usually if you see great entrepreneurs have their hands in everything. Some of the stuff they have is failing miserably. Some of the stuff they have is ultra successful. That's a good entrepreneur. My father, since you read about about my brother, you know that my father was a entrepreneur himself. My father had his hands in everything. Skating rink, nightclubs, he would bowling alleys, you name it. He had his hands, Coca-Cola trucks. He owned Coca-Cola trucks. He had restaurants and everything. And that's what he did. He just wanted to make sure that, because if no one wanted to skate, they want to go bowling. So you're going to give me money either way.
Yeah.
And then when you grew up and you were too old to skate, come up to my club and have a drink.
Nice.
And that's what a good entrepreneur does. What do I have in order for us to move forward?
I like how you explained that they're basically vertically integrated. It's like when you're a child, play hockey. When you're up here, drinking at the nightclub. That's
Absolutely.
I like that. So what is it with 4 Ps that a business owner can take essentially, and then, contact you? Are you helping them walk them through these 4 Ps? How did that relationship work?
Yes, I can help them through it. I mean, it's a great book to have, the 4 Ps. Buy the book and just use that as a manual. And there are a lot of short stories in there. I brought up 2 of them already, with CCM and Blockbuster, but I brought up a whole bunch of personal stories too. Business people learn off personal stories. Okay. There's some stories I had about, that I experienced growing up, or I experienced while I was in business, or I experienced even while I was in the military. But again, it always ties to those purposes and things like that. When you are a business person, you have to always know your mission or your purpose. You have to know that. And when you look at planning, the way I wrote the book Planning, I wrote about how to stick to your plan. I wrote about team building. A lot of businesses fail because they get their best friend. Oh, we're buddies. I have a section of my book that talks about the best teams are the people that don't like each other.
Yes.
Those are the best teams. I hate your guts, but I'm going to work with you. Because when you have people like that, you're not going to sit there and lollygag. You're going to get right to it. Let's get this done. Let's get this over with. There's also going to be a level of competitiveness within the team.
100%.
You're going to bring out the best in you. So those are the things that we talk about in the book. Those are things to read. Those are things to consider when you're building a team, when you're planning, things like that. In the passion part, again, if you're getting up like, oh my God, I do not know why I'm doing this. Most businesses fail in the first 5 years. That's because you don't want to do it.
Exactly.
If you don't want to do it, you're going to fail. But if you really want to do it, you have that passion, you're going to eat, sleep, drink, you're going to do all of that stuff, and you're going to make sure that business is going to be successful. When I first started out, we were not successful right off the gate. We needed to have passion. We needed to see what that end goal was. We needed to see what we were going for. And we're probably still not there yet. I know I'm not. But every single day it gets closer. That prize gets closer. And then I always add another prize into it, so then it gets further away. So, and that's what businesses do. And then obviously, again, going back to the persistence part, the persistence is, like, for example, I know I'm going to have a meeting today with somebody who's like, dude, oh my gosh, this new economic environment, because he does a lot of work overseas. This new economic environment's killing me. What am I going to do? Well, we're going to talk about that today. How can you leverage that? How can you take advantage of that? So, yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay. So can people reach out to you and then set up a consultation with you as well to walk them through these 4 Ps?
Absolutely. And, my email is Trunnis@TrunnisGoggins2.com. Very easy.
Yeah, we'll put it in the description for sure.
So you can reach out to me. I'm on all of the social media sites. I'm on all of them. Yeah.
I want to talk to you about a little bit of the physical competitions that you might be in, knowing that David Goggins is such an amazing athlete, kind of pushes himself to the limits, stay hard, right? Like all of his mantras. So how are you staying fit as well to keep your mind right and making sure that you're pushing forward?
I am an avid CrossFit individual. As a matter of fact, I have a major CrossFit competition in Sydney, Australia in March. So I'll be representing the United States. I think I'll be the only American over there. So I got to do well. You know what I mean? I got to do well. And I am actually while I'm in Australia, a good friend of mine who was a world record boxer, national champion in Australia, he and I are going to be riding our bikes across Australia to raise money for stroke victims. So we're going to be, I don't know how far we're going to ride. I don't know how long we're going to ride. Again, he's in his 60s. I'm in my mid 50s. So we're going to ride as far, right now, that means I'm going to ride from Sydney to Sydney, but we're going to ride pretty
No, I was
far.
saying Sydney to Sydney going around Australia.
I was saying Sydney to Sydney, going from the east side of Sydney to the west side.
Gotcha. It's a matter of perspective, how you look
It
at
is. But no, we are going to ride. I know we're going to ride as far as Adelaide, which is that ride is about an 1,100 kilometer ride.
Wow.
So it's no joke, but we are going to take that.
And that's the ride leading up to the CrossFit competition. And then you're going to compete, right?
No, I'm going to do the CrossFit competition first. The reason why is because, the ride is actually a lot. The ride is going to be a lot. That's going to be my cool down, to be honest.
That's the cool down. There you go.
Yeah.
That's the recovery stage.
Exactly.
We'll just have a nice 1,100 mile ride on this.
Yeah, 1,100 kilometers. So that's not as bad.
Okay.
Times that by 0.63, you're looking at about 700 miles. It's not that bad.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Man, that's phenomenal. Doing that kind of a workout and then representing the US. So where do people follow you? Because now they're going to be interested. for the CrossFit competition specifically?
We are putting that together right now. We're actually putting together sponsors. I know Phil McDonald's his name. He's working on that right now in Sydney, and we'll have all that available. Once we have that available, obviously we're going to be announcing that on all the social media and everywhere else we can.
Good deal. And so you're literally just one US rep, or are you going with a team?
I am the only United States citizen going. It's going to be me against the world. Just joking.
Let's go.
I'm actually going to be competing with Australians. So we're going to be on the same team.
That's pretty cool. That's awesome. Okay. And when is this competition going to happen?
It is the last weekend of March. It is March. I'll tell you in a second. I always say the last weekend of March because I'm going before for a book event. It is March 28th and 29th.
March 28th and 29th. Okay. Good deal. If there's any kind of a sign up reference or whatever, we'll put that in the description.
Roger that.
That's cool. I want everybody to just follow as much as possible of what you're doing. So let's talk about your book a little bit here, the journey of writing the book itself and then launching it. So where did you get the idea originally? And then how did you begin?
The 4 Ps actually started when I was going through a really bad time in my life. I lost my daughter to a homicide. I was in a horrible marriage. Everything was just going bad at the right time. You know, it was just everything. It was a perfect storm of bullcrap. One day I just stopped doing everything I was doing. Either I do this and stay like this for the rest of my life, which was a bad, literally I wanted to get hit by a truck every single morning I woke up.
I can imagine. That's terrible.
Or I give up everything and start all over again at 48 years old. And I decided to go ahead and do that. But before I did that, I started out with, okay, what am I doing now? Who am I? I now raise my grandson, who right after this is over, I got to go pick him up from school. But it's like, and so the 4 Ps concept came from that time of my life. Okay. And so what ended up happening with that is everything I said, this was an intentional reset. Keep in mind, 48 years old, people are thinking about retirement or getting ready for that time. And I am sitting there going back to square one at 48. So I had to accelerate. I had to make sure that everything I did was intentional. Everything was by design. Everything was almost like clockwork. Because if I didn't, I was going to struggle for a very, very long time, probably for the rest of my life. And so that's how I came up with the 4 Ps concept. And it worked. It absolutely worked. And now I'm here today. I have a beautiful house. I'm raising my grandson and things are going quite well.
That's awesome. So how do you settle on 4 Ps and not 5? And did you have a mindset of I want to talk about these 4 things, just happen to start with P? Or did you start writing, brainstorming stage, like a typical outline, and then you kind of go into the book?
I'm a business professor by trade. And you have the 4 Ps of marketing, right? 4 Ps of marketing. In order for you to sell your product, in order for your product to be successful, you got to meet these 4 Ps: price, product, placement, and promotion. You got to hit those 4 Ps, right? So I'm like, wait a minute. In order for you to be successful as a person, you have 4 Ps of you. So you got 4 Ps of marketing, 4 Ps of you. Funny thing is, now my book is getting popular, but before I used to type in 4 Ps, it always used to come up marketing. Now it says of you. So I know that I'm making some headway, but I can go into Google and pull that up. So yes.
That's phenomenal. When Google's got your back and you're doing the right search engine optimization, that it now sort of recognizes this 4 Ps as the book that Mr. Goggins here wrote.
Absolutely. Not the concept that was created by some business guy eons ago. It's my book that just came out back in 2024. Yeah.
Because we're talking, multiple years, probably before ChatGPT and AI kind of came out as well, right?
Absolutely.
So you weren't able to leverage some of those tools to refine this. How long did this take to actually publish the book?
It took a while. It took about 9 months to publish a book. Now you can turn around and publish a book in almost 3 weeks. But yeah, it took about 9 months to get it done. And obviously you had to go and shop it to the right publishers. And even when shopping it to the right publisher, you had to make sure that you had the proper ownership and all those other good things. It was a lot of stuff.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And so how did that work? You set up meetings like this and you're like, hey, I got a book. What do you think? And then...
Yep. That's exactly right. That's exactly what I did. And then eventually what happened was, like I said, I own the book, so I can do whatever I want with it. But I had to find the right person who said, hey, I want to do this. So.
Gotcha. And so now this book is available, in softcover, hardcover, electronic, everything?
It is paperback. It is not a hardcover, but it is paperback and it is electronic. And I am putting together an audio right now. I will tell you, it's harder. Doing an audio book is 20 times harder than doing a written book, because it has to go through such a rigorous approval process.
Really?
That's exactly what I said. Really? Are you serious? I'm like, all right, let me record this and be done with it. No, it takes a long time for it to get approved.
So I'm thinking how I would do this is an organization called Synthesia, very popular, where they take your voice and then they can basically create an agent that can speak just like you, sounds just like you, and then give it the entire book as the script, which Gemini can now do because it has a capacity of 1,000 books, basically. It's massive.
Wow.
You give
Okay.
it your entire book, give it to Synthesia. It sits there and recites the whole thing top to bottom in your tone, your tonality, right? All of that stuff. It trains on you first. And then essentially it can be done overnight. You wake up in the morning, you listen to it, and then you're done. But that would be the recording piece.
You got to get it through Audible. You have to get it through Apple Books and stuff like that because they all have to be approved. So you go through a long process.
If you haven't recorded it already, that might be.
Oh, I'm in the middle of recording it, but then after I record it, I got to send it to my publisher. So if I get that, you would cut a million days off of what I have to do. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah.
Theoretically, you would be done tomorrow, right?
Absolutely.
And then you can just send them a file or put it on Google Drive, have your publisher download it from the other side, and then they would have it easily as well. Because the other issue is when you record, first you're making some adjustments and edits and all these kinds of things that takes forever. But then when you record it, the file is relatively large. So oftentimes people have trouble like, okay, well, how do I get this file to you? They can't email it because email usually has some kind of a limit. And so, they're trying to find these different ways of sharing files and so on. So yeah, I'll certainly look into that. And the book is already available online. Like people can just get it from everywhere.
Yes, you can get it everywhere.
Awesome. And then if they have questions, they want to have you come show them how to do things.
Reach out to me, please. Yes, you can reach out to me at any time. I would love to talk to all of you.
All right, sir. Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll put all your information at the bottom. Phenomenal speaker. Really glad I was able to chat with you. And what a surprise. You happen to be a celebrity as well. That's great.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.